everyone, so today I'm going to be making a video about finding the area of rectangles and squares and other shapes that are just made up of rectangles and squares. If you weren't able to tell already, I am in New Hampshire today, and that's why I think this is going to be a pretty fun video. The other thing that's special about this video is that this is going to be the last video I make before I go off to college and before I move into my dorm. So next time you see a video, it's probably going to look a little bit different, but I'm hoping that I'll definitely have a lot of fun people to help me out making videos when I'm in college as well. So let's start with reviewing a little bit about the area of squares and rectangles. So the area formula I'm going to be using today works for any type of square or rectangle, no matter how big or how small. So if we look at the rectangle that I've drawn here, I've decided here to use the units of kilometers for each of the sides. You could use any unit of distance that you want for the different sides of a square or rectangle. Here I've said that the long side is 6 kilometers long and the short side is 4 kilometers long. So to find the area, this entire rectangle, I would do 6 times 4, which is 24. And then my unit would be square kilometers. And so the total area of this square here would be 24 square kilometers. So now I'm going to be going around my house and finding other things that I can measure using either a ruler or a tape measure, and we're going to be finding areas of different square and rectangular objects in my house and outside in the yard. So the first object I'm going to be measuring today is probably one that you all have seen a lot before, though hopefully you haven't spent too much time looking in the answer key for the workbook. But first of all, I have to ask you all a question. Do we think this is something that should be measured using a ruler or a tape measure? Pause the video and think about which one you think is best. If you said ruler, you are correct. This is a small enough object that I'm gonna estimate that I can measure both dimensions just using my ruler. And so I'm gonna do that. You'll notice that my ruler actually has markings for inches and for centimeters. The centimeters are upside down from your perspective here, but if I turn the ruler like this, then they're right side up. So I'm probably going to decide to use centimeters. I don't know, that's more fun, but you could measure it using inches as well. Of course, your answer would be different depending on which one you chose, but that's okay as long as you write your units in as well. So let's first measure this short side. I'm gonna line up one end of my ruler with the end of the book here, and then see where it lands here. I'm gonna round, which means I'm kind of just gonna look at the closest mark to the end of this book here, and it looks, well, I don't know if I'll round. Let's just say 20 centimeters long to make life a little bit easier for ourselves. It's actually a little bit closer to 20 and a half, but let's say 20. So now I'll flip the book around and I will measure this side. So same thing again, I'm going to line up on this side and make sure that the edge of my book lines up, not with the edge of the ruler, but with this mark right here. And then I'm gonna go to here, and it looks like that is, again, that's right on the half mark, like 25 and a half, but let's say that that is, which one does it look closer to? Let's zoom in really close there. Well, it looks closer to 26. So let's say that the short side of this book is about 20 centimeters long, and the long side is 26 centimeters long. So what we would have to do to find the area is to multiply those two together. I will give you a minute. See if you can try to do that multiplication in your head. Pause the video. So the answer to that would be 520 square centimeters. You could do that on paper as well to check your work, but the area of the cover of this book should be 520 square centimeters. So next up, we're going to be measuring the area of this brown picnic table right here. So my first question I have to ask you, of course, is which of these should I use, my ruler or my tape measure? Pause the video and think about it. If you said tape measure, you were correct. These sides are going to be too long for me to measure with one length of the ruler, which means that using a tape measure is probably best. So we'll start off by measuring the short side over here. And I'm gonna need a second opinion over here. So let's see what you guys think of this length. Do we think that's closer to 28 inches? What do we think? Yeah, I'm gonna say 28 inches right there. So we'll say 28 inches for the short side, and now we'll do the long side over here. So the nice thing about my tape measure is that it actually has this little thing at the end. That means it sticks to the edge of the table. And it looks like I am getting 69 inches here. So we've got 28 inches by 69 inches. And now you guys will join me upstairs as I try to calculate that. So this is the multiplication problem that we came up with from the measurements of that table, 28 inches by 69 inches. And so here we're gonna multiply them together. I'm sure that wherever you are in the book, you probably know multiple different ways to do this. So I would encourage you to pause and try this on your own, but I will also go through the steps. I'm going to use FOIL with subtraction because I think that's probably the easiest right now. So first step is, of course, to rewrite both of these, which I did by expressing 28 as 30 minus 2 and 69 as 70 minus 1. Next up, I'm going to do my 4 FOIL steps here and also calculate the answers to those multiplication problems. When you add and subtract everything, you're going to be basically adding 2,102 and subtracting off 170. You end up with 1932. Now here's a very important step. That is not enough to just say 1932. We have to put that in terms of the units that we use for measurement. So we measured the sides of the table using inches, which means we have to express the area of the table in square inches. And so we would say that the area of that picnic table is 1,932 square inches. All right, so next I'm going to be measuring the area of this dock right here. You might say to me now that, how are you going to do that? Because this is not a rectangle or a square. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to split up the area of the dock into 2 rectangles. The first being from the end of the dock over to here, and then the second one being from here all the way down to the shore. My question for you next is, of course, which of these should I use? If you said the tape measure, again, you are correct. This would be much, much harder to measure with a ruler because it is so big. Even with my tape measure, might not really be long enough, so I'll show you what I'll do then. Okay, pause it. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this section of the dock right here. I'm first going to measure the short side because I think that's going to be easier. So I'll go down to this end. I will lay the tape measure down here. And for this one, I'm also going to measure in feet instead of inches. So I'm basically going to round to the nearest foot. And it actually looks like this is almost exactly 4 feet long. So we'll say 4 feet for this side of the dock. Right on the mark. All right. Our next task is to measure the longer side of this dock, and I may have to improvise a little bit because this may not be long enough. We will see. So I'll start over here, where we go between this section of the dock and the other one, and then I'm going to pull it back, and we're getting towards the end here. Let's see. All right. So our tape measure ends right here at the 10-foot mark. So I can already tell that this dock is a little bit more than 10 feet. So what I'm going to do to measure how much more than 10 feet is I'm going to pull this ruler back up, pull the tape measure back up. Pause video.
Did you break the tape measure?
Alright, so I broke the tape measure, but that's okay. I'm still going to find a way to measure all of these things. I'm not giving up. So basically for this, measurement here, we get to right here, and that's where the tape measure ends at 10 feet. So I'm actually gonna put my ruler starting here and say that it's about 5 extra inches beyond 10 feet. Just to make things easier, we're just gonna round that down and say it's 10 feet. So this section of the dock is gonna be 4 feet by 10 feet. We multiply those together. I know you guys can do that in your head. And you should get that the area of this small section of the dock is 40 square. All right, so I'm now measuring this section of the dock right here. Unfortunately, I can't do it from the water. But this section here is about 8 feet, almost exactly 8 feet wide. So we know that the width of this part here is 8 feet. So now I have to go back and measure the length. All right, so again, we have the same problem where it's a little bit longer than 10 feet. So we're just going to round. I can tell it's not going to be a full closer to 11 feet. So we're just gonna round down to 10 here. So we're gonna say that the length is 10 feet and the width is 8 feet. So you guys can multiply those together in your head as well, and you should get 80 square feet, which means that total this whole dock is 80 square feet plus 40 square feet, which should get 120 square feet. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to be back with you guys really soon for my next video.